In our previous video, we spoke about what NIS2 was, why it's important, and how you could implement it for your organization. All very useful things to know. And you can check out the video in the top right corner if you'd like to know more about those things. In this video, we'll talk about another key topic, the difference between NIS and NIS2. Let's start with a quick brief on what NIS is. NIS, or Directive 2016-1148, was launched in 2016. NIS was the first horizontal EU law aimed at improving the resilience of network and information systems in the EU against cybersecurity attacks. But as these risks grew and changed, NIS, the framework, started to show certain limitations in terms of its scope and efficacy. 6 years later, or in 2022, the EU launched its new update, NIS2, also known as Directive 2022-2555. The aim of NIS2 is simple: to enhance cybersecurity across the EU by establishing a high common standard for cybersecurity. But the way NIS2 chooses to go about it makes it quite different from the original NIS directive. Now, with that context, let's dive in. Broadly, there's 4 ways NIS2 has been updated. The first is scope. The original NIS directive focused on operators of essential services in critical sectors, such as energy, transport, banking, financial markets, infrastructure, health, water supply, etc. NIS2 dramatically expands the original scope to cover a much broader range of sectors and services. In addition to the ones that I just mentioned, NIS2 also now covers public electronic communications, social media, waste management, space, food supply, postal courier services, critical product manufacturing, and public administration, both central and regional. Based on their impact to society, these sectors are split into essential entities and important entities, with the former having stricter requirements in supervisions. The second update is stricter and more concrete security obligations. The original NIS directive was seen as too high level. Specific cybersecurity measures were left to member states' discretions, which led to each country having a different security requirement, since each country defined controls somewhat differently. NIS2 solves for this by being a significantly more comprehensive risk management approach, including measures for incident prevention, detection, response, and recovery. It also focuses in particular on supply chain security, along with regular security audits, vulnerability management, encryption standards, and multi-factor authentication. Importantly, NIS2 also introduces accountability at the executive level. Management can now be held personally liable for non-compliance, so no more vagueness from top to bottom. Literally. The third big change is incident reporting and governance. The NIS directive established requirements for reporting significant cyber incidents to national authorities within certain timelines. But specifics around significant incidents and timelines were vaguely defined. NIS2 again steps in to do away with the papers. It clearly defines what counts towards a significant incident, impact on service continuity, economic or societal damage, severity, etc., and imposes strict timelines for reporting. An incident must trigger an early alert within 24 hours of awareness, a detailed incident report within 72 hours, and a final report within 1 month. NIS2 also calls for more harmonized oversight. It mandates that member states adopt a similar supervisory and enforcement approach and introduces a new EU-level body, the European Cyber Crisis Liaison Organization Network, or EU Cyclone, to coordinate management of large-scale cyber crises. The final change is around enforcement and penalties. While GDPR set the tone, the EU has doubled down on harsher penalties for non-compliance in recent years. The problem with the original NIS directive was that it left enforcement and penalties to each member state, creating significant variance between countries. Again, more uniformity with NIS2. There's higher maximum fines for violations to start with. For essential entities, NIS2 mandates a fine of up to 10 million euros or 2% of annual global turnover, whichever is higher. And for important entities, fines can reach up to 7 million euros or 1.4% of annual global turnover. NIS2 also arms enforcement by giving regulators the power to audit and inspect entities and issue binding instructions for violations. So, to summarize, NIS2 broadens the scope of coverage to more sectors amongst different entities. It raises the security standard by specifying concrete measures and extending responsibility to top management. It improves clarity around reporting with well-defined reporting timelines and brings in stricter, harmonized penalties to enforce compliance evenly across member states. The deadline for NIS2 implementation was 18th October 2024, and any company that meets NIS2's financial criteria, medium-sized enterprise, is one of at least 50 employees and an annual turnover or balance sheet of about $10 million or more, and a large enterprise has about 250 employees and 50 million euros worth of turnover. And sector criteria, essential entities and important entities need to get compliant. While this usually involves a ton of manual work and effort, there is an easier approach. compliance automation. Sprinto helps thousands of companies leverage compliance automation across several frameworks, NIS2, GDPR, CSF, 803, SOC 2, ISO 27001, and more, so that companies can get compliant faster, easier, and more inexpensively. Continuous monitoring via Sprinto's centralized dashboard means that you stay compliant too, all year round and not just during an audit cycle. To know more, visit sprinto.com or book a demo with one of our NIS2 experts using the link below.